Hello and welcome once again to Powertalks TV. Now, when you hear the word logic, immediately it connotes a thinking process that makes sense, that is probably sequential, and logic is based on experience. That, okay, this happened that way, therefore this is our conclusion. And logic works very well in some cases, but with regards to transformation, logic can become actually a big hindrance. Now, let's go back to our definitions of transformation. We said transformation is a movement across forms. I explained in other editions that when you hear the word transatlantic, it means across the Atlantic. Transnational means across the nation or across nations. So similarly, transform means across forms, from one form to another, from one form for our life to another, from one form of a company to another, from one form of a nation to another. And I gave the example of the butterfly, the egg being one form, the caterpillar being one form, the pupa being one form, and the butterfly being another form. Now, so moving from one form to the other is what transformation is. Now, transformation is impossible without the mentality of transformation. There's a thinking process. Now, the truth is that that thinking process is easily hindered by logic. All right? And that's what I want to really focus on in this week as I talk about going beyond logic. Whether we understand or not, our environment, our associations, our information, and our experiences all form the basis for our reasoning today. Let me give an example. The story of this couple that got married, and when the lady was growing up, she was used to her dad making breakfast for the whole family in the morning. When the man was growing up, he was used to his mom making breakfast for the whole family in the morning. So they both had set thinking patterns. Then they get married. So in the morning, nobody gets out of bed. Why? The wife is used to her dad getting up, so she's expecting her husband to get up and make breakfast. Husband is used to his mom, so he's expecting his wife to get up and make breakfast. So we have a logjam. Now, that's what logic does. All right? So their ability to process things was conditioned by their experiences in the past. So that was their expectation. Now, the truth is, you will always make decisions based on your conditioning. So when it's time for you to make decisions, you always fall back on your conditioning. Now, that is why it is so crucial that we keep developing ourselves and we make sure that our conditioning is relevant. Somebody who grew up in my village, for instance, who's never ever been outside the village, can never think of becoming a pilot because he has never seen a plane before. But once that conditioning changes, expectation changes. I love the story of William Kakwamba, the young man from Malawi, who couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't speak good English. And this guy would go to the library in his village and look at physics books. And he's looking at the diagrams. Now, the diagrams, he kept looking at that, and from the diagrams, he saw how to build certain things. And this guy built a windmill in his village and was able to generate electricity for the whole village. In fact, he knew that he had really succeeded when people were lining up in front of his house to charge their mobile phones. That's a story you can check. Just Google William Kakwamba. What changed? His conditioning changed. And I'm thinking, if just by looking at pictures in a book, a man's life could so drastically change that he becomes such a great agent of transformation. Imagine what can happen if you actually do read the book. So it's very important. It's easy for us, and it's the natural sequence to fall back to our conditioning. That is why we have to ensure our conditioning is always relevant, because whether we understand or not, we have been programmed. We've been programmed by these agents, our associations, information, experience. We have been programmed to think the way we think. They laid the foundation for our logic. And so our performance and expectation of ourselves is deeply rooted in this. I think of somebody who has never, ever, when we're living in America, somebody who has been conditioned by the environment in America asked me, oh, do you live in trees? Somebody who has been conditioned looks at Africa as a country and says, oh, you come from Africa. Well, I have a friend, his name is Mohammed. I come from Nigeria. Oh, I have a friend, his name is Mohammed. He lives in Johannesburg. Do you know him? And so I say, well, I have a friend, his name is Peter. He lives in New York. You're living in Seattle. Do you know him? It's basically conditioning. People have been conditioned, and the media is very strong conditioning agent. So people have heard a single story about certain places, and so they are conditioned, in their minds about those places. And we see this all the time. The human brain is a logic machine, and it's very easy to program. All right? It's a logic machine. It operates best within the confines of the known. So when a sequence is started, if for instance a sequence is started 2, 4, 6, 8, immediately your mind connects with what is next. All right? If I start reciting the alphabet A, B, C, D, you connect with that sequence. But the problem comes if I say recite the alphabet backwards, starting from Z. Then we have a problem. All right? Why? Because that is not in line with the logic you are used to. So your brain gets stuck when it does not understand the sequence. Now, many people today are trapped in the box of logic. Because, the box of logic keeps you in a place where you're used to. The box of logic, it keeps you in a comfort zone. In fact, when you hear the expression, thinking outside the box, what box is it? It's the box of logic. Some people actually know it's time for them to change form, but they opt to remain in the old form simply because they are not sure of the process of getting to the new form. Why? It defies their logic. I remember once, I tell this story a lot, I was in Colombo, at the airport in Sri Lanka, and there was a very, very long line of people. All right, there was some renovation work also going on at the airport, so there was a very long line of people. And I was with a gentleman there. I met him at the airport, and we began to talk. He and two other friends of his, we began to talk. And in the corner of my eye, I saw a very short line of about 4 people. So I asked one of the airline officials, I said, what line is that? And he said, it's for people who have checked in online. Now, I was so excited. Immediately, I just moved and I went straight to that line. Had I checked in online? No, but I was armed. I had my BlackBerry with me. So, immediately I got on that line, I went to Emirates.com and I checked in. The whole checking in process online didn't take me 2 minutes. And before long, I was given my boarding pass there and I was headed to the lounge. I've already checked in. So I think of this gentleman that I'm talking with before, and I go meet and I say, hey, look, I found a way we can get out of here. You can check in online. And the guy came up with some excuses about his phone. I said, no, you can use my phone. I can help you. And do you know, that guy did not move. And that was the day I realized that some people are not happy with where they are. They are not comfortable with where they are. But they don't change because they are stuck in that logic and they don't understand the logic of the next destination. So this guy didn't understand, if I check in for him, maybe I'm going to take his credit card. I said, you don't need your credit card. But a lot of people do not change, not because they are enjoying where they are, but because they are not sure of the process of how to get to the next form. So you see, logic is like a two-sided coin. It has its usefulness, but it can be very deadly. When a person visits a doctor, there's a procedure that goes on. The doctor will ask questions. He's asking questions about the symptoms and all that. The doctor is trying to establish a logical sequence. Once he has been able to establish that logical sequence, then he can accurately diagnose. But the problem happens if the symptoms do not fit into a logical sequence. Then the doctor doesn't know what to do. Then they call in an expert, they refer to somebody else, they say, okay, we need to do more tests and all that. Same thing in criminology. Logic is used in tracking of criminals, that this person, all these things, these are the trademarks of this person or this kind of gang. Or there's an attack, I say, this fits the pattern of Al-Qaeda. All right? Logic. Okay? So these are youthful attributes of logic. But the truth is, life is rarely logical. And so what that does is, people who have been groomed in the training ground of logic are heavily challenged when they come to face to face with a life that's not logical. And it's a big challenge for a lot of people. And so, very important, life is not logical. What's logical about going through school with a promise of a great future and then getting to that future only to realize there was nothing great about it? So many people are dealing with that. What's logical about somebody who has invested all their love and affection in someone who then stabs them in the back? What's logical about that? What's logical about being brought up to stand for truth? Then you get victimized at your place of work because you stood for truth. What's logical about spending months and months of preparation and research and investment, developing a new plan for the future of your organization, only to have the parameters that form the basis of your planning change, even before you could execute the plan? Technology is changing fast. Government policies are changing. The attitudes of people are changing. The desires of people are changing. Every day, organizations have to deal with this. So, life is not logical. So how then do we deal with a life that's not logical?